You are listening to episode 14 of the Victorious Working Moms podcast. Hello, hello, lovelies. Happy New Year. It's been too long, but you know how it is. How are you enjoying this new year? It's been eventful, right? Well, I am back in the saddle, so to speak, ready to talk and share and serve you all. Thank you, those that have listened. Please feel free to tell a friend, subscribe. I'm ready to kick off a new year, rededicated to the podcast, trying to get some interviews lined up and have lots to talk about. Also, letting you guys know I'm on Clubhouse, so check me out at Nneka Ichoku, Nneka Ichoku. And you can even listen on Alexa. Just tell Alexa, play the Victorious Working Moms podcast, and she'll do it. I'm hoping to share in 2021 that I am here, Dr. Nneka, to serve and help professional moms who feel overwhelmed, tired, unsupported, to feel more centered, energized, and empowered. And I think the mind-body connection is a big part of that. And really understanding about our health and just not being so isolated. So here's to being more self-compassionate, being consistent, even if that's in small baby steps, and curious and creative. So this next recording that you're going to listen to was recorded pre-COVID. It is directed towards physicians, but I think it has benefits for all of us. Please enjoy. Do you feel tired and run down, but you've been to the doctor and your labs came back okay? You know that you need more energy and you feel like you're having trouble controlling your emotions. Did you know that there's some mind-body approaches that you can consider? Such as emotional freedom tapping. And did you know that the host of Victorious Working Mom, Dr. Nneka Ichoku, is certified in emotional freedom tapping? It's a mind-body approach that's evidence-based and can rapidly treat stressful experiences and memories. It complements well with coaching, therapy, and medication. So you don't have to change what you're already doing. You're just adding a new skill and technique that's evidence-based and trauma-informed to effectively treat most emotional issues. If you want to learn more, check out Victorious Touch Acupuncture on Facebook and email victoriousworkingmom@gmail.com. So what do you do when life throws you that curveball? How do you react? Do you run? Do you hide? Do you fight? Do you thrive? Do you fall apart? What happens when something you didn't want to happen, when you're trying to get to Italy, end up in Switzerland? You know, especially as a working physician, when life happens while you're working, it can be tough. You know, a lot of times we're more sympathetic to our patients than we are to ourselves and frankly to our colleagues. You know, we're all willing to pitch in, but who wants to have to do that for months? It's different to do it for a night or two or a week or something like that. How do we protect our well-being when we're being stretched too thin, for example, or when something happens to us and we're out of control? You know, life doesn't care that we have this higher calling to serve our fellow man through the healing arts. You know, our children can get sick. We can lose spouses. We can get sick. We can lose a parent. We can go through divorce. How do we bounce back? Do we have to bounce back? You know, however we navigate that
issue, it's up to us, because it's whatever fits our personal needs and situations. For some people, you could have a debilitating illness where you can no longer practice, or you have to change focus. Some people have to change into non-clinical careers by force, not by choice. Some people, it is a choice. For some people, they need to cut back, not because any illness happened, but just the needs of their family. Somebody chooses to, or circumstances call them to be a stay-at-home parent. Does that make them any less of a doctor? Did they quit? Or did they say, you know what, I had this plan, but I just had to change it? I mean, we do it all the time. We have a running diagnosis, and the objective data is just not fitting that picture. We need to maybe reevaluate our differential, or attack it in a different way, or take a step back and really review where this is going. I think we're always allowed to do that in our own lives too. There's, it's not a multiple choice test. It's open book once we leave that classroom. And there's so many ways to skin a cat, and I'm sure some of us have. Then giving ourselves permission to explore, even if we're in our current jobs, if we have to change our schedule or what we do in that current job, or if we think we're ready for something different, if you want to launch a business, be it a new main gig or a new side gig, if you're like, I don't want to work anymore, and that's fine. All of it's fine. There's no quote unquote wrong answer. If you have the means to retire early, or if that's a goal, or you're at financial independence and you want to choose a different way to work, or you're not at financial independence and you want to get there, or you're happy with your debt tolerance, so you just want to live a good life and pay it off as you go, whatever. There really is what works for you, because what's your reality? And there's a fear and excitement and a freedom in it. We're only constricted of what we think about. How we think about a problem or a situation is how much we can be flexible or have a strategy to approach it. The issue, for example, physician burnout, Dr. Dyke Drummond says repeatedly, it's not a problem that has a solution. Like an incision and drainage of a abscess, but it's a dilemma that needs strategy on different levels. Maintenance. So what do you do when the bad stuff happens and it rocks your routine, or you have to look within? It's just like what we did if you were one of those people that had to repeat a year in med school, or take an exam over like the boards, or steps if you didn't get residency the first time around, if you didn't get that position that you were vying for, if the couple match didn't happen. We all experience disappointment at some point. This is a lot of years on a very long journey. So some people I've heard say, well, I did it all right. I checked all the boxes. I should have XYZ. If that's, I should have the perfect husband or the perfect wife, or I should live in this beautiful home. I shouldn't be in debt. Whatever your should or what you want it to be in the reality of what it is, there's always something you can do to get it one step closer to where you want it. Sometimes the optimism of the struggle of the goal of trying to get there, it brings something out of you. It's just that iron sharpening itself. It's pushing the stone up the hill, that sometimes the strengthening in you is what gives you what it takes to deal with an adverse event, literally, or adverse situation. When we find that we did make a mistake and miss something and it hurt our patient, how do you recover? What happens after the first time you get sued? And whether you were at fault or whether you weren't, or the perception, how do we get back up and still use a surgical instrument on a patient again? Or how do I trust a patient when I find out they videotaped me, or use my DEA number to get narcotics or what have you. It's the same grit that got us through our training, but we have to have a little more flexibility now that we're not on the rigid road of medical education. And even that is changing. I mean, our younger future colleagues are podcasting and doing YouTube channels, and they might have had small businesses or other careers before coming in, even those so-called traditional students. And I think we can learn something from them, and that we got to ask. We don't always have to accept what comes at us or feel like there's no other way, and not see that if we go off of the beaten path that we didn't fail. What if you just got to learn a different path and you could be just as happy? I hear that a lot in some groups that, especially women's groups, sometimes the shaming of female physicians that choose to stay at home. One, how's that anybody else's business how someone chooses to raise their family? But that perception of we're giving up, or if you want to go to part-time, you're not really a team player. All of that thing is someone's perception. Nobody stopped them from adjusting to their circumstances. If you choose to work at a certain level and that you're not happy with it, you choose, despite the unhappiness, to take on that load. You did have an option, even if it didn't seem obvious, to make a change. You could quit the job. You could negotiate for a different schedule if that's possible. You could ask for a mid-level. You could step down from some duties. Maybe teaching was taking up too much time. There's always a way out. There's always an option. You can always tighten up the strategy, no matter what it is. For the employed physicians, sometimes for us, our challenge is we're in these huge, MIC practices, these medical groups, and we're so distant from our administration, and you just feel like one cog in the wheel and you don't matter, and they come up with these arbitrary templates of how many patients you're supposed to see and how frequently. You have very little control over your grid or marketing or any of that. It's just very insert doctor here, and that can be demoralizing at times. But there's always something you can ask, and the worst it can say is no. I think it's the bottom line is, even when it seems like life is throwing that curveball in your personal life, your professional life, there's something, accepting and believing there's something that can be done, and it starts within me. Even in a unsavory situation, can always bring out the best in you. It doesn't have to be that something is just bad happening to me. Something good can be happening to me at the same time. And there's a beauty and a power in that. None of us came out of our mother's wombs fully trained physicians. We all had to go through a journey and a path to get there, to whatever specialty we're in, whatever job setting we're in. And it took trial and error. It took learning new skills. It took routine. It took discipline. It took dedication. And we all have it. And you can apply that to so many things. We are leaders. We are exceptional. We are extraordinary. Whether we're filling out FMLA forms or we're doing cutting edge surgery, groundbreaking research, or shaping the next generation of physician or the healthcare providers, we're doing it. We're doing it. It's being done. It can be done, and it can be done with grace, even in the step of adversity. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Victorious Working Mom Podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, share, and leave an iTunes review. Until next time.